What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another Transformers review. Well, third party, I should say. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Fansproject Function-X1 code. Now that's Chromedome. If you don't know how they came up with the name, I spelled it out for you. There's Chromedome, and you can see code is clearly in his name. So it'll be interesting to see what they name some of the other ones, especially like Weird Wolf and stuff, if they decide to follow this naming convention. Just a quick look at the box here. You just get some black and white line art, well, brown and white I guess because it's clear. Little piece of car mode, Chromedome. Just warnings, Chromedome's head. Yep, that's it. Box inside is really nice. Just a tab open, clamshell inside. Nothing really more to talk about with that. Now, unlike all the other Fansproject stuff, you get this little pamphlet here for your instructions, and that's all it contains, is just the instructions in here. No comic, which is a little bit disappointing, but hey, what can you do? So let's actually take a look at the toy here, because he is absolutely fantastic, and I've been unable to stop messing with him since I got him. He's just a lot of fun. He does have a couple little flaws, but nothing that I would say is too major. So he looks good all around. They've actually engineered in a Headmaster that works. Now let's talk about the articulation. This is where people kind of complain about this a little. Based on his shoulders here, he can only move his arms side to side that much. And that is kind of a problem. But when you couple it with the fact that he's got an upper arm swivel here, and you can kind of be creative with the elbow and stuff, you can still get pretty decent poses for, you know, aiming left and right over his shoulder. So that's not too big of an issue, but it's definitely one that's worth noting. As you did see, it is on a ball joint, so it'll go 360. The swivel in and out is limited, but you do have the upper shoulder swivel. You do have a single jointed elbow, but it's cut so he can get a very tight angle on there to hold his gun if he so chose. Like that, I suppose. And he does have a wrist swivel down here. He has nice waist articulation. Legs are on ball joints again, so you get good range of movement out there. Now, because it's not a cut ball joint at the top, or socket I should say, you do have a limited how wide you can spread his legs, so he's not going to be perceptor kicking or anything like that, but it's still pretty good. He does have a knee down here. There's the rotation at the top here to give you quite a bit of the range of stance that you're going to need anyway. And then his foot is a little bit limiting. It can go back like this for transformation. It doesn't have an ankle, but I haven't found anything that he's unstable in, and frankly, you know, he doesn't look all that awkward even though his feet aren't necessarily touching completely in both modes. I mean, it's not that bad. I certainly wouldn't complain about it too much. In terms of his head, they do have this neat little spinning disc here that when you plug his head in, you can make him look left and right. So yes, our Headmaster can look left and right. Of course, there is no stat readout gimmick, but who really cares? He does have articulation to look down, but it just looks really weird on a Headmaster. Now, before we go on to doing anything else here, the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is he kind of has a second robot mode, almost. If you were to take his head off and put it on the other way, and actually if you do that, he can actually look up a tiny little bit. If you swivel this plate all the way around, he cannot. It's because of the molding back there. Well, I guess he kind of can. Yeah, so if you really want to, you could swivel it the other way and he can look up, but his eyes start looking a little bit strange there, as you can see, because it's pushing on his back piece. So yeah, it doesn't really work too well. But anyway, if you have it rotated like this, where he can look up with a little bit of movement there, you can actually take his arms here and swivel them around this way, Now his fists are backwards, but this is just something that I'm wondering if this is kind of planned for something or not, because look at the arm detailing there and what you've got going on. They definitely look like some kind of pipes. And then you can actually take his whole waist and rotate it, and it's a pretty different looking robot mode here that you're getting out of him. And I think Fansproject could repaint this into something else, and if they put the fists on the wrong way, even if it was their own thing, they could make something out of this, I think. What Transformers do you guys see when you look at this? Because I've been trying to debate that for a while. A couple GoBots have come to mind, but there certainly has to be some kind of Transformer that looks similar to this, and I can't help but feel that this whole thing turning out this way is rather intentional. But yeah, let me know. Leave a message in the comments what you think. I'm half tempted to buy a second one when they become available again, simply so I can make something out of him like that. So let's do some size comparisons here. I brought in the original Generation 1 Chromedome, and this is where you can kind of see one of the little bit of problems that this guy has. Obviously there's some different detailing, but I have no doubt that a repro label set's going to come out that's going to change that. Whether I get it or not, I'm not sure yet. I really like how this guy looks out of the box. The other one you'll see is that the animation model and the toy have a gray head, and the Fansproject one has a white head. Honestly, it doesn't bother me so much because I think it looks good with the changes to the white as opposed to the silver here. So there is a little bit of a difference, but it's not too bad. You can see my Chromedome has two different color guns. One's a repro and one's real, but hey, that's okay. Actually, looking at the guns, let's actually pull out the guns here. And be careful. At first, my gun was really stiff to get into the fist hole here. You may vary, but mine was extremely stiff. So here's the sniper rifle off of the original Generation 1 toy. And then here's kind of the reimagining. I guess I can hold him by this little handle here. The reimagining here, which is pretty cool because they do still look kind of the general shape and everything. I really like these weapons that they gave this guy. Now, it's also worth noting, you can pull off this Headmaster and you can pull off this Headmaster. Hard to do with one hand. And actually, you can fit this Headmaster into your Generation 1 toy. It's wobbly, it doesn't look right, and it doesn't activate the stats. This one will not go in this, so don't try it. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to point that out here. And we'll take a look at that Chromedome again once we get to the vehicle mode. And here is the deluxe hot rod. This is the Takara version. You can see that he's a bit small, and I guess this is probably not the best size comparison because he is kind of small and outdated. So here's your Lamborghini, who is similarly old, but has definitely held up better than this guy. So yeah, you can see he's really nicely in scale with the deluxe cars. And I do have also two of his teammates. This is the Stronghold from TFCon, the exclusive. So that is my fortress for my current deluxes. And then I've also got the Hardhead over here. And actually, I don't know, depending on what I see about this Toy World one that's coming out, he might end up getting replaced with the Toy World one, because I really like Fortress being this big, and if I could get Toy World somewhere halfway between these two for Hardhead, I think I'd really like that. But we'll see. Now, before we actually go to the transformation, we can get started, I guess, by taking the Headmaster off. Let's take a look at him. Now, you can kind of angle his intakes however you want. I personally like to angle them just so they're flush with the molding on the front here, but I've seen some people put them all the way back, which will be blocked by the legs, but you can do that if you prefer that look. And then some people who push them forward and just let when you plug them in, that naturally make up the shape. But this is how I like to display it. And it's a really nice head, super nicely detailed, and it's probably one of my favorite things about this bot. So you take this and you fold out his legs here, and the coolest thing is you're gonna see the top part of his head rotates like this. Now what that does for the human, or the little Nebulon I should say, is makes his abs pop out. But in the process, as that pops out, it actually hides his eyes away, so it makes it look more like that backpack that the Generation 1 had. And there you go, you've got your little Headmaster, and he looks pretty awesome. Now he's not super articulated, he does have legs that move, and he's got your standard G1 style arm articulation. And that's it. But I am perfectly okay for a little figure like this to not really have very much articulation. If Hasbro did something like this, I'd be all over it. Let's just take a look here. Besides a G1 Headmaster, which you flip this to hide the eyes, so already the hiding eyes doesn't look quite as good. And you fold the feet out. And now these are linked, so you really don't get very much leg articulation there. But there you go. You can also move the arms, but I'm not going to because these arms have a very high tendency to break. So there you go. And like I said, I like the white now because it actually makes a really cool looking, kind of like a spacesuit or something almost. Whether you use the Headmasters from the perspective that they're humans and in like some kind of suit that lets them transform in the head, or you just kind of accept them as little tiny robots, whichever one you prefer. Either way, I still like the looks of the new one better. Now head robots, I've always been a fan of head robots. They do some really cool stuff with their Headmasters. But I gotta say, outside of articulation, Fansproject has beaten head robots. Kind of showing to me why Fansproject's the king of the pile still. Not to knock head robots, they make really great products, but I do like this Headmaster better. So for them, you just kind of fold down the feet and that's it. So he's always got a head on his back. There's nothing that hides that. Now yes, he does have way more articulation, and that is a lot of fun, especially for someone like Hardhead, where you can have him posed all over the tank and stuff like that. And he's definitely got better leg articulation. But this also does lead to the problem, unlike this one, this Stylor, I believe was his name, he stands really nice. If I am going to put the head robots one standing straight up, he's gonna fall backwards. So my only option is to lean him forward, hunched forward a little. Even the G1 version doesn't have that problem. So yeah, very limited articulation, but totally acceptable in the grand scheme of things. So let's just take him, and we are going to get him into a nice little driving pose here, and make him just sit like that. And we'll just take him and set him to the side for now, because now it's the main event. My favorite part about this guy. So let's take these guns, and you can do this transformation with the guns on or guns off. Let's leave them on. The instructions actually tell you to leave them on, so let's leave them on. What you do is kind of rotate his wrists out a little, so it gives you the room to work with, and you're going to plug them right into the back here of his forearm, just like this. And just kind of leave it like that. Now, what you're going to do is pop this little panel down, and yes, it does look a little bit inappropriate if your mind goes there. Mine did, so clearly you can see what I'm thinking. And then the coolest transformation thing, in my opinion, is you take this and you kind of lift it and you just slide it down, and it's on a track, and it slides all the way down past the upper body down to his crotch, and that allows it to get to the other side of the car without having to pop it off. I wish Hasbro did something like this. That's really cool. Probably my favorite part of this transformation. So then what we're going to do is open the cockpit. Now I'm going to give you a warning about the cockpit in a little bit. I modified mine very shortly after messing with it the first time. So anyway, open it up like that, and then we're just going to kind of close it for now just to get it out of the way. You can see I rotated these out. They are inside until you rotate them out, and they are held definitely in place by the cockpit if you don't have it open. So once you have that, we're going to go move to the top here, rotate his wrist so it's flush like that, and you should be able to bring it down against his arm, and then rotate the whole assembly inward like this and close that flap. And then we'll take this, and you want to make it so it's kind of lined up with that hinge joint here. So we'll do it again for this side. Rotate the wrist, bring it on in, rotate it, and rotate it. What this is going to allow you to do is take this and fold it together. Now inside there's a little clip there. Just pushing it together is not going to hold. It will flat out make a noise when it's together. It's actually really hard to get these apart. It takes a little bit of struggling after, but there you go. It's together. Now, let's talk about this cockpit. We have it open. Now, this is usually a right angle. I took a little pair of hobby clippers and actually cut off just a little section, because when it was closing, when you see everything together, it actually was hitting part of the leg, and I was really afraid it was going to damage it on there. So yeah, I clipped it. I recommend you clip it. You certainly don't have to, but it really will damage the leg, and it's not a big part. It's just this part right here. You can see I got a little, it's actually one side's from the mold, but the other side's actually a little bit from contacting with the canopy. I recommend fixing it. It's not a terribly visible place, but that's up to you. You do have to clip the canopy. So when you're done, let's flip this around so now you can see our track here doesn't meet with the track on the front anymore. And then we get to the legs. The legs are pretty simple to do. What you're going to do is rotate it on up so this little brown piece is facing up. And then we're going to rotate these pieces on out. And you kind of have to position it right so you can flip it all the way around like this. And then what you're going to do is take your foot and kind of straighten it onto the back here and fold this on up. So it really makes a long leg there comparatively. So let's do that again. Flip it, rotate this, rotate it on around, straighten, straighten. And you can see we're almost done here. You'll take this and you'll fold this all the way back, and fold this all the way back. And you have to, when you're looking at the car, there's the hinges here. Make sure your top gets above the hinge on both sides. Then you're going to come to the bottom here, and you're just going to kind of squeeze it together, and there's a little tab in the hole. It's just going to clip into place. It's not, you don't force it if it's not going to go. It should go really, really easy. And I will say that your ability to get this to roll is all dependent on how your legs are positioned. If they're not positioned right, he's going to be kind of a wobbly mess. So once you get that, we'll just flip out the front of the car here, like so. And there's the tabs in here and the holes. And just kind of close it on up. And I like to personally just kind of make these go flush. If you push it in all the way, they're not going to be flush and it looks a little weird. So I just kind of push it in and then use my hand to kind of level it out there. And there you go. You got his vehicle. Now mine doesn't roll all that well. It rolls a little, but this wheel really likes to get held up. I can't figure out what's holding it up. I don't think... Actually, I see what it is. It looks like it's contacting this little block here just a tiny bit I'm not sure how to fix it. I don't think I really care though. So there's his car. Canopy closes really nice, especially if you cut it. If not, it's gonna get stuck right about this point. But you can see when it's cut, you really can't tell that it's cut. It's really not a big deal. I kind of wish it was molded that way to begin with. So there you go. Now you can only open the canopy that much because of how it contacts the back here. But these little controls inside, and yes, there are little controls inside, swivel up. Inside, it's going to be hard to see, but there's a peg down there, and that will actually fit in the hole between his crotch there. Well, between his thighs, I guess. And you just kind of take them in, and you plug them on in there. And that's going to make sure that our Headmaster, even if we flip this upside down, is not going to just randomly fall out. And then we swivel the controls on down. And he's positioned pretty good to make him kind of look like he's holding the controls and operating them. And there you go. You got Chromedome with styler inside. Now these guns, as you saw, they stayed on the arms the whole time. They actually have a component in there that allows them to rotate on a hinge, so you can put them in the straight over the car look, or aiming up, whatever you really want. You're not going to get any side to side out of them, just because of how it's molded, so don't try, you're going to break them. And be careful taking these out of the bags, because I've heard of a couple people who have snapped the front off when they posted through. Just cut the bag with scissors. Don't be too much of a hurry. It's not a big deal. So here is our Generation 1 version again, and you can see they nailed it for the car. I mean, you've got all this detail here that wasn't picked out in the G1 version that we've actually given some kind of like thruster or something to. So yeah, aside from maybe the kind of louvered back end which is missing, it looks really good. I absolutely adore this car. Let's bring in our G1, our Classics guy stand-in. Here is the other Takara Rodimus. And you can see Rodimus is a little bit bigger, but, you know, overall, fairly comparable in size. They look pretty good together. So yeah, this is a fantastic toy, and I think it might be one of my favorite Fansproject toys at this current time. It's just so much fun to mess with. It's not all that expensive comparatively. If they can keep putting out figures at this price, then it's a no-brainer to transition away from the current Hasbro Takara offerings at $15 to $17 a piece for a deluxe, and just save my money for something that is just so much more enjoyable to mess around with. So this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I will see you next week.